concert of our middle school youth brass band camp for 2025. It's been a wonderful time here. It's a whirlwind camp with just 3 days, and it goes by really, really fast, but I think my favorite part of it is hearing the improvement and seeing the improvement that the students make in just 3 short days of camp. If you had only heard them on Monday, you know exactly what I'm saying. So one of the great things about this camp is that we have artists from our brass band of Battle Creek here working side by side with the kids, and the students are learning from them. And while the concert here is really cool and a great experience in itself, we're really not just about the concert, but about all of the other experiences that the students have while they're here at camp. And one of those experiences is being exposed to all different kinds of music. And what you're going to hear tonight is selections by the band interspersed with music of a lot of different styles that will be performed for you by our faculty. So the students have a chance not just to perform, but also to hear our faculty perform, and so do you as the audience. So for our first faculty selection, I'd like to bring up John Beck, one of our percussionists from the Brass Band of Battle Creek, to give you a little more information about the piece.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being here. Dave Koash and I are members of the percussion section of the Brass Band of Battle Creek, and we've enlisted our good friend Stephen to join us in this percussion trio that was transcribed by our timpanist, Julie. This is traditional Korean folk music, traditionally played on these giant barrel-shaped drums. We're using Marshall High School tom-toms tonight. This piece depicts a horse with wings racing across the Korean countryside so fast that it can't be caught. So hopefully you'll hear that galloping rhythm in this Cholima.
that has a little bit more of a traditional British connection. And this next piece that we'll perform for you is by a composer from the UK, who's also a music teacher in the UK. His name is Andy Norman, and it is called, it's got a very, very Scottish kind of theme. You'll hear imitation bagpipes in here and a number of things. And it's called The Highland Farewell.
Hello. Thanks for joining us. We've had a great time with your kids today, grandkids, stepkids, anything you want to call them. We love them. They've been super awesome. We have some 6th graders up here. We got people going into 9th grade, and it's been a great week. The next piece we're going to play is a piece I wrote for my best friend here on the stage, Stacy Baker. When I first met her, I heard her playing, and I thought I want to play with her someday. So now we have a duo called the Symbiosis Duo. And we recorded a whole album, and I just felt like I should maybe write something for us, because we did a lot of arrangements. And so this is the first piece I composed for this duet, and it was inspired by where she grew up in Harson's Island. And this is probably the only place I can tell an audience Harson's Island, and you probably know where it is. Can you show them on your hand? And the title of this is called The Island, because she grew up on the island, and it stands for Sans Souci. I always say it wrong, which means without care. So this is a piece that's called The Island.
sponsors help us to keep the prices reasonable for our families, so we really appreciate their help. Helping with the camp this year are Rick and Linda Sumas, our 2025 season sponsors. The Guido A. and Elizabeth H. Vinda Foundation, the Battle Creek Community Foundation, the Worthington Family Foundation, Bronson Battle Creek Community Health Partners, Simcoe Energy, and the Greater Albion Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. We also had help with snacks. We had a lot of snacks here this week, which is very important at a middle school youth brass band camp. We had help with that from Kellanova and also from Meyer. So thank you to all of those sponsors and supporters and all of you who have supported the brass band at Battle Creek in our recent fund appeal, which also is devoted toward our youth programs. Our next selection is a piece that I arranged, and it's an arrangement of the old folk song Billy Boy, but it's not like what you might have heard in an earlier version. I mentioned that a big part of this is that the students gain experience with different types of music, and of course one of the things that sets the brass band of Battle Creek apart from other brass bands is that we do perform a lot of jazz. So this is a jazz themed arrangement of Billy Boy, and I've actually been very pleased with how the students have played this and the tempo that we've been able to achieve. You'll hear in the middle that we have some improvised solos by some of our faculty members, and those would be Corey Brewer, who joined us from Michigan State University today, Gail Robertson, who you've already heard from and are going to hear from again in this concert, and Stephen Cunningham, who, although he played percussion on a piece just a moment ago, is one of our really accomplished jazz performers in the trumpet section, the cornet section of the brass band of Battle Creek. So here we go with Billy Boy.
at the Brass Band of Battle Creek Summer Middle School Brass Band Camp. That's a lot. And we're going to be joined now with my colleagues Stacy Dyken on horn, Corey Brewer on trombone, and Stacy Baker once again on tuba. And we're going to play for you the third movement of the Western Suite for Brass Quintet, written by Betsy Bright. Betsy Bright is a trumpet player. She's actually a member of the Tucson Symphony, which might give you an idea where the inspiration for this piece came. It's 3 different movements originally, each sort of inspired by a bit of the West. This final movement is a rondo, which is a musical form in which a main theme returns over and over and again. And Betsy said that she wants you to think every time you hear this theme entering that it's someone else entering the ring trying to ride a bronco. And I'm pretty sure that I didn't pick this movement, maybe subconsciously, just working with these kids this week. It's called Rowdy.
Well, sometimes in working with middle school students, you don't know exactly what's going to appeal to them, and this next piece was kind of a pleasant surprise. So who would have thought that the Wellerman, a sea shanty from the mid-1800s from New Zealand, would be one of the pieces that we had the most fun with at this camp. But it turns out that the Wellerman really kind of had a rebirth in just about 3 years ago now on TikTok and on YouTube. become very, very popular, and also has kind of spurred new interest in the whole genre of sea shanties. So we're gonna channel our inner whaling ship sailors here, and we're going to play this arrangement that I did for the band that lets the students do a few unconventional things like stomping and grunting and some other things. You'll see. This is the Wellerman.
Sorry about the sticky valve. And then I don't know what happened with our play-along track, but you got the shortened version of that. But anyway, this is another piece I wrote a couple years ago for a good friend of ours, Deb Eastwood. She's a trumpet player friend. And I don't think we ever played this, but the other day when we were looking around the room what faculty was here, I thought, I wonder if Stephen has something to feature himself on. And I remembered this trio I wrote about 9 years ago, and I thought, I wonder if he'd want to play that. So this is called the Eastwood Blues, and I wrote it for our good friend Deb Eastwood.
Before we perform our last piece of the evening, I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce each of the faculty members of the middle school brass band camp this year. First of all, our educator faculty. You see people coming up front here, but I'm going to introduce some people in the back. So if you just please stand when I introduce you. First of all, William Blythe, who's on tuba, an instructor on tuba. He's helped us out a lot of different things. He's one of our veteran middle school teachers who comes to help us with this camp. He's the director of bands at Chippewa Middle School in Okemos. You've seen her up here helping with the stage and so on, but I'd like to thank Jamie Gray, who is down here right in the corner, she has been our activities director today and these last 3 days, and is a reading specialist at Hughes Elementary. Mark Hageman on trombone. Mark is from Thornapple Kellogg Middle School. And Louis Kramer, who has been working, first of all, has been a student of this youth brass band camp and is kind of, to a certain extent, a product of our program, who then has been working as a college intern for us, and now I'm proud to announce he has his first position as a public school music teacher at Pewamo Westphalia Schools. Louis Kramer. Now, the faculty that you see in front of you, first of all, you met Heather Zweifel on trumpet from Michigan State University. Stephen Cunningham on trumpet from Hampton University. Stacy Decton on horn from Charlotte Middle School, retired. Corey Brewer on trombone from Michigan State. Gail Robertson on euphonium from the University of Central Arkansas. Stacy Baker on tuba from Morehead State University. And our wonderful percussion instructors, John Beck from the University of North Carolina School for the Arts. And Dave Coash from the Florida Orchestra. So this next piece is very special. I'm proud to say that for the past 3 years, students who have come to this camp have gotten to perform a brand new piece of music composed just for this camp. And this year, I was talking with Gail Robertson, member of the brass band of Battle Creek euphonium section, and asked if she would be interested in writing something for this camp. And the product that you'll hear in a moment was far beyond my expectations. This is called School's Out March. She wrote it specifically for this camp, but she also wrote these wonderful faculty feature parts. So we're doing this to close out the concert. You'll hear the students, you'll hear the faculty, and you'll hear the wonderful writing of Dr. Gail Robertson. Thank you so much. I would also like to mention that after the concert, there is a reception where the students will come out, the faculty will come out, and you can meet the faculty if you'd like. You can take pictures and do all of that. It's kind of a chance for everyone to say goodbye at the end of camp. And there's some cookies and water and things like that. So we hope to see you after the concert. Thank you so much for lending us your students for these past 3 days, if you're a parent. And we've enjoyed it very much. And I think that, well, how about these kids? Could you give them a round of applause? The amount of progress in 3 days with the hard work of these students and the hard work of this faculty are something that I'm very grateful for. And we hope you enjoy School's Out March.